From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says an investigation is underway into the killing of a Canadian tourist at one of her country's most visited sites north of Mexico City. The UNESCO World Heritage Site was bustling with tourists yesterday when an armed man standing atop one of the historic pyramids opened fire on visitors. One Canadian was killed. Another Canadian was among at least 13 other people injured. Here's ABC's Matt Rivers.
Graphic video being reviewed by police showing a gunman opening fire at the historic Teotihuacan pyramids just outside Mexico City. The suspect holding a handgun, walking behind tourists pinned to the ground, shooting.
Now he's climbing up.
He then scales the massive stone face of the pyramid, the crowd scrambling away, running for their lives down the ancient steps.
Yeah, get out of there.
The Mexican shooter later died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. An Ontario man accused of selling lethal substances online to 14 people who later used them to take their own lives will return to court on May 29th. That's when murder charges are expected to be withdrawn in a plea deal. A Newmarket court north of Toronto heard yesterday that the case against Kenneth Law is set to be resolved during that court appearance next month. Law's lawyer had said on the weekend that the 14 counts of first-degree murder will be dropped and that his client would plead guilty to the remaining 14 charges of aiding suicide. Quebec's new premier, Christine Frechette, is set to announce her cabinet today ahead of the scheduled May 5th resumption of the Quebec National Assembly. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Prime Minister Mark Carney was pushing fear in his Sunday video address to Canadians on the changed relationship with the U.S. Carney said Canada's deep economic ties with our closest neighbor are now a source of weakness and that we must press ahead to diversify our trade. In his own video posted to social media yesterday, Poilievre argued Carney's address was aimed at distracting us from persisting inflation and other issues.
He also promised to negotiate a win with the U.S. by July 2025. Almost a year later, he has squandered Canada's leverage and we now pay twice the tariffs on far more goods than when Mr. Carney became Prime Minister.
Poilievre argued Carney's government has also failed to show progress on the pace of home building and accelerating major projects. Grocers in the far north are not just dealing with surcharges from suppliers, but also rising freight costs to northern provinces and territories. Nicholas Lee, an economics professor at Toronto Metropolitan University, says a vast majority of items come by air, which makes up a substantial share of food prices.
Those high freight costs hit food disproportionately compared to other types of goods that people buy. And within food, they disproportionately hit products that have relatively low value to weight.
This is the Canadian Press. In sports, Jason Dickinson and Kasperi Kapanen each scored twice for the Edmonton Oilers in a 4-3 win over the Anaheim Ducks to open their first-round NHL playoff series. Edmonton forward Leon Draisaitl says contributions from depth players were welcome.
You know, your top players have to be your top players, but you're not going anywhere if you don't have guys like that chipping in.
Draisaitl had 2 assists after he missed 14 games of the regular season with a knee injury. The Carolina Hurricanes scored in double overtime to edge the Ottawa Senators 3-2 and grab a 2-0 lead in their series. 4 playoff games go today, including in Tampa Bay, where the Montreal Canadiens will aim to take a 2-0 lead in their series with the Lightning. In the NBA playoffs, the Toronto Raptors find themselves down 2-0 after losing another in Cleveland, 115-105, and the Toronto Blue Jays are on a 2-game winning streak. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a 2-run homer as the Jays beat the Los Angeles Angels 5-2. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.